Welcome back, everybody, to Week 6, Part 1 of Breedinum Radio Season 2. This week, we've got, there's been a bunch of bucks hitting the ground, so it's physically impossible for us to get everyone on here, nor does anyone have the time to listen to all the stories in 1 week. But we've got a couple for you on this episode, which will be Eric Hansen from the Finger Lakes area. We'll hear a little bit about him and where he's from and his story. And Ben Williams, he's been on the podcast before. He's with Old Tin Cup Property Management, so we'll get him on here. He shot one of the bucks that he was after on his property, so excited to hear his story as well. So enjoy the stories here, and we will have another episode, Part 2, for this week, probably airing on Friday with 2 or 3 more stories. A few of the guys that we're close with did put some bucks on the ground middle of this week, so we want to get their stories out there as well in a timely manner. So thanks again. Appreciate it. If you're enjoying these episodes, make sure to share them. Share them to any hunting groups you're in or anything on Facebook or Instagram just to help us get this out there and help the podcast keep growing. Thank you all for the support and have a great week. Keep feeding them.
Breedinum Radio, brought to you by Pertinier Outdoors, your source for all things deer hunting and the rut here in New York State, right in your backyard, so you can get up in the stand and pound them all season long.
There it is.
Look at the size of that head.
I know. We're almost twins, bald with white teeth and beards.
You got it. I was going to compliment you on that haircut.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's not by choice. I'm just getting there, you know.
Yeah, mine doesn't grow even, so hey, it's a lot less to worry about. Just
Amen
get
to
rid
that.
Yeah.
Roll out of bed and let it eat. So you're a Bills fan too? I like it.
Yeah. You?
Oh, big time. Yep.
I was going to say you better be from where you live exactly. You said Western New York.
Yeah, I'm out in Strikersville, so just outside East Aurora.
Okay.
Yeah. So it sucks. We're season ticket holders, so this year definitely is not cool to have the best team we've probably had in our lifetimes, and can't go watch it. So
yeah, we've been going since '87. Season tickets since '87.
How old are you?
39.
Okay, so you're not that much older than I am. You got 6 years on me. 87 was the year I was born, just to put that in perspective.
Yeah. So I went to my first game in '87. We've had tickets ever since. We used to have 6 of them. Now we only got 2, but yeah, I hear you. I don't want them to have a really good season with an asterisk next to it, you know.
I know. Where are your seats, or where are your seats at?
Right now we're in the – I don't go anymore. They're in the club seats. We got club seats now. We've had them for I don't know, club seats for maybe 5-6 years. Once you do that, it's hard to go back.
Yeah. Is it in the Kelly Club or?
It used to be the Kelly Club.
Like up under where they got the heat deals.
Yep. Yeah. I want to say the first or second row maybe of that at the club. I mean, we're like I don't even remember now, maybe 20-yard line, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a good time. So hopefully I was optimistic that we would be able to get into the stadium this year, but it ain't going to happen. So maybe next year.
I think not in this state. We'll be the last ones that have fans.
Oh, I think we pretty much are the last ones not to have fans at this point.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
So enough of that. I got you on here. So I know you probably have not heard the podcast. I had been not even sure how I came across you, but been following you for a little while, and then I saw you shot a real nice buck here within the last week or two. So I wanted to get you on to, number one, to meet you, but number two, to hear your story about the buck you got.
Yeah. Well, thanks for caring.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start out by just kind of introduce yourself. I don't even think I introduced you. So introduce yourself, where you're from, kind of maybe what you do. It looks like you farm. Are you a farmer?
Right.
So hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I'm in Stanley, halfway between Canandaigua and Geneva.
Yep.
Just south of 5 and 20. I mean, we have ground. So we farm about 3,000 acres, and I'm the 4th generation technically. We started farming in 1919.
Damn.
So we just crossed the 100-year mark. We grow corn, soybeans, wheat, but our interesting, unique thing is cabbage. We grow a lot of cabbage. It's all hand planted, hand harvested.
No kidding. How many
Yeah.
acres of that?
We do about 600.
Wow.
Yeah. So the deer do eat cabbage, but they like corn and soybeans a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me. And then we've been, so I say I gotta be clear. Like I have a friend, his name's Ethan. Probably 12 years ago now, we started filming our hunts.
Okay.
And we started off with someone called Midwest Whitetail with Bill Winky.
Yep.
Okay.
Never heard of him. Yeah.
All right. So,
no, I'm
so
being
we
sarcastic.
so we started with them. Like I say, it's at least 10, maybe 12 years ago. We just wanted to, it was a challenge, and we wanted to, I mean, part of it, honestly, for me was I shoot these bucks, and people would tell me, like, he's, like, he's doing something illegal, or, he's not, so I wanted to, like, say, all right, well, here it is, we film them. We don't get every kill on film, but we've been pretty good.
Yeah.
In this particular one, we got probably our best footage ever.
Cool.
So that's how it got started, and then we just evolved. Now we're with a friend of ours. He's got a YouTube page called Just Hunt Club.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a startup deal. I met him actually at Midwest Whitetail.
So is that John Lewis?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've kind of putting the pieces together because I had seen him share your picture, and I know he's connected with the guys from the hunting public, and so yeah, it all kind of makes sense now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they met. All those guys met at Midwest Whitetail. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And we met Sam Soholt at the Total Archery Challenge a couple of years ago down in Pennsylvania, and just all those guys Bill Winky really helps a lot of guys get their start. He's got a good internship program or whatever you want to call it, get everybody into it. But I'm past that point in my life, but it's cool that he's given young guys opportunities, and then the hunting public are doing the same thing now. I mean, a lot of guys are doing the same thing there and then going off and doing their own deal. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, it is. So that's, like I say, that's how we got going on it, and we just try to get better every year. And it's a local connection with Lewis. Having John right here close. He lives just an hour and a half away, and it's just been great. I mean, he sends guys off to film if we need it. It's pretty good. The connection for us with Midwest Whitetail was really just started with Bill Winky, and then another guy that's not there either. So it just got a little more distant from us. But those guys are all great guys. We just decided to do this, and it's been fun for sure.
Yeah, and it's the same deal with what we're doing. There's not a lot highlighting what's going on in the Northeast and New York, let alone New York. And I mean, there has just been some absolute giant bucks being shot this year, and it's awesome to see. And I think we need to showcase it and talk about what we've got going on, because everything's Ohio and the Midwest, and we've got some great things going on here. So
we do. Yeah. And that was kind of another reason I wanted to do the videoing, was just show people that it's possible.
Yeah.
I got more ground than the average Joe, so to speak, but we have 3,000 acres of farmland, but maybe 10% of that's wooded.
Right.
So it's not like everybody thinks I got all this ground, which, we do, but it's not always, it's not always where deer are. They're just fields. So.
Right. So let's hear kind of the setup. So this buck, I assume, being that you live and breathe out there, that you probably had history with this deer or something of that nature.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Most of them, you're right. We follow them for multiple years, and we're to the point now where we're not going to kill anything until they're 4.5 at least. This buck, I'm almost positive, is 5.5. So last year we passed him, and he really was, he was all right. You could tell he was old, but his rack was just fair. And then he ended up getting busted up. We had an encounter with him, which you'll see on the hunt probably next week when he posts it. But last year we had an encounter with him at least once, but we got the one on film. And we called him no brow because last year he had no brow tines. He was just a 3x3, no brows. He was a buck that was in our area, so he was just one that, like I say, we were after bigger ones. So he got the pass, and then he got all busted up. So we were optimistic. You can kind of tell with these bucks if they're more home bodies or if they got a bigger range, their likelihoods of living. And we felt pretty good about this one. And this summer we started getting his pictures, and it was like, at first we didn't even know it was that same buck because he grew so darn much. But I bet he put on 30 inches probably, at least.
Just what do you account some of that to just good growing? I mean, did you have good moisture and good weather and good food for him throughout the summer, you think? Or
Yeah, I just attribute it to genetics.
Yeah.
These things, they get to a certain age and they might grow up, they might have a split G2 and then the next year they won't. They might grow 30, 40 inches in one year, or you might have a buck that grows 5 or 10 or even goes backwards. I've seen it that way too. So I think it's just, it's just a roll of the dice and having to get one that grew a lot.
Yeah. So how did the hunt go for this buck? Were you kind of after him all season right from the start, or did you kind of were you following? What was your strategy on getting on this deer to get him?
Yeah. So technically, if you wanted to rank him, he was probably number 2, just because there's another buck that we've got like so much history with. But that's a story for another day. So this buck, yeah, I mean, like I said, summertime. He was definitely close to daylight through like mid-October into the 20s, and then we got into the late 20s and he started to get closer to daylighting where we could hunt. And a lot of times he didn't bet on me. I mean, he was on the neighbors and he'd be on me, but it'd be just after dark. 2 days earlier, so I shot him on the 4th, and it was November 2nd. I was full draw on him. It was 35 degrees, windy, and he was out there like 47 yards, and I just didn't feel. It just wasn't a good situation to try to shoot him. So let him go, and the next day, I needed him. I moved a stand to get a little bit closer to him because where he was coming through, it wasn't working. So I, got the stand all prepped and got out of there. And on my way out, I checked a camera, a non-cell camera, and just, to see if he was on there. And sure as heck, he's on there and he's going north. So I thought I was going to be hunting in that spot that day. Well, it switched. And I ended up just taking a little bit of an educated guess, going north, just in an area that he'd been before. And, obviously it ended up working out. So he came out by himself, which is why I love this time frame. You give me the late 20s of October into, right about now, really, and it works out slick. I'll take that time frame over everything. So came out by himself. He'll see the footage. It was great. We got footage of him both nights. Great footage. Like we probably got 45 minutes of footage.
Wow.
But the night I killed him, he come across the field and the wind was marginal for us. I kind of give you the setup, but we were on a little point that sticks out into a big 70-acre clover field. And he came out about 150 yards away all by himself. And he could have gone about 3 or 4 different directions. And, he could have got downwind on most of those directions. But he started coming our way. And, I didn't want to grunt at him because I knew he'd get downwind. So he came in, and when he was about 50-ish yards, he started angling to want to go into the timber. But at that point, he was behind that little point that I was in, and he couldn't see past it. So I just gave him one really soft, quick grunt because I knew, 50 yards is too far. Yeah. And he stopped, and, he just, like the big bucks do, they don't do anything in a hurry. They're very deliberate, slow. And he stopped there for probably 45 seconds, maybe more. Eventually turned and came right at me, and I shot him at 35.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, he's a 4x4, and he's
heavy.
Yeah. He's special deer. obviously thrilled to make it happen. Yeah, and we got great footage too. So that's the cool part. You'll be able to see it all.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the video. I didn't realize you had footage of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we got to. We're by no means professional, but this one's pretty good. I mean, we got 2 angles. You know, we got two different cameras going. I actually was in a tree in a saddle. And that's another part of the story. We have a hang on stand in this area, but these deer would come out and like there was a tree about maybe 8 yards closer to the edge, and the day before I went up with some steps and put them in there, and I saddled them that night just to give us that extra little bit. And sure as heck, I mean, if I was
that,
without that, I was in the tree stand with the camera guy, and it would have been 45, 50-yard shot. So it made all the difference in the world. But the footage, the cool thing is the camera guy's in a different tree.
Okay. Yeah. That's unique. You don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And then I've got a little camera that I actually remembered to turn on, just a little one, in the same tree. So we got a couple of different angles of it. It was neat. And John Lewis will do a good job. He's awesome. He'll make us look better than we are.
And that's the beauty of the saddles is just the ability to be that mobile. Like you can do that with a portable, but sometimes it was probably a smaller tree out in that point there, or what?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So the big thing for us was with the saddles, and in this situation, if I was in that tree that I was in with a hang-on stand, on the front of the tree, I'd stick out like a sore thumb. Having the ability to be behind the tree is a big deal with those saddles.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can basically just disappear into the tree, and you just can't do that with a portable or a climber. So
right.
Yeah, it's an awesome tool. I think it's a huge fad right now. So in some ways gets a bad rap, but when you can add that to your toolbox, and it just makes it that much more lethal when you can move in minutes and have it be pretty much seamless. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, guys like us, I'm mainly private ground, and I mean, I've got I hate to even tell you, probably 35 tree stands, but we still use the saddle. You know what I mean? When we still end up in the saddle, and for those big ones, it's so much of it's this unique move, unique move here, unique move there, and just like this one, it might only be 10 yards, but it makes a difference.
Now, was this the same spot where you had seen him the night before?
No, it was probably
different.
It's probably a half mile.
So do you feel like it was just by luck that you saw him in both nights in different spots, or were you kind of figuring something based on the wind, or?
It was just the fact that I had his picture going out of one area, headed north to another, and that other area to the north was where we getting pictures on the, on the edge of daylight. So it was an educated guess. Ironically, he walked out underneath the tree stand that I hung like 5 days earlier. I mean, he walked out. If we were in that thing, he would have been right underneath it.
Yeah.
But we chose another one and it worked out. But yeah, it was just an educated guess based on these things. I mean, we run cameras. Some of them are self cameras. We had his range figured out fairly well. There's a standing cornfield in between these two areas that I talked about, and I think he was in that a fair amount. He might have been in that the night that I killed him. I don't know when he got on his feet per se, but the night I killed him was warm. I mean, maybe it was the day prior now that we had the other footage of him, but that was 35 degrees and 20-mile-an-hour wind. I mean, it was nasty. The night I killed him was like 60, so I didn't have super high hopes. The wind was really calm and not one of those days where you get excited about, but
you're not out there. So I got a question for being that you are a farmer and you're out there, and I assume you do some of the combining and stuff like that too, or?
I don't run that equipment. No.
Okay. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on deer in the corn this time of year. If you feel like a lot of them do hold up in the corn. The reason why I ask is that we've had some corn standing around our property that we haven't had was just getting taken off right now as we speak, and we're the movement and the deer activity has just been awful this season, especially the last 2 weeks. So we're just trying to figure out like what the hell's going on. We've never had more cameras, we've never had more intel, and they're just not I guess that's two part. Do you think corn could be a factor, and or what have you been seeing on your cameras this year on the farm? Has it been slow activity on the cameras?
So the first part with the corn, I guess, it's definitely a factor. I do think, as a rule, it probably gets blamed too much for lack of. Everybody says either in the corn than the corn, but it is true to a point. When you get it off, obviously they've got less places to go. I think this one was in the standing corn, so it's definitely a factor. Yes. Now, when you say you've had more cameras than ever, are you getting pictures on the cameras, or you're not even getting them on the cameras?
We're getting some pictures on the cameras, but nothing like we have in the past. And so we're running a Cuddy Link system this year. We got 10 cameras on about 250 acres, roughly. But actually, the farm is 250 acres, but we've got the cameras are probably on an 80 to 100 acre piece, and the movement just fell right off, and all the mature bucks were just gone. It's just been very odd this year how it seems like the movement's been different. But ironically, the big buck that we've been after on the farm, he disappeared for like 3 weeks. Middle of October, he was just gone off the cameras, neighbors as well. And then we started cutting the corn yesterday, and all of a sudden he shows up this morning at 5:30 in the morning. So it's just trying to put the pieces together,
Yeah, it also is obviously the time of year too. It could be corn related. It might not be. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's definitely a factor. I mean, I can tell you lots of stories where the combine's in the field, and they might be down to the last like 16 rows, and those deer will wait. They'll be in those 16 rows, and the combine will be going down the row, and they'll finally run out the end. So, I think the deer personality and their certain traits that they have. Certain ones maybe like the corn a little better, but
yeah,
absolutely they stay in it. I mean, we're gonna do. Actually, tomorrow we're going to combine that field that I think this one was in some. So I'm sure there'll be deer running out there.
Oh yeah.
I don't actually own. We farm that ground, but I can't hunt.
Lease it to farm it or what? Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely gives them more cover.
It's one of my favorite things to do during gun season. I've only been able to do it a couple times, but be somewhere near a combine. It's a pretty fun evening or day whenever you're out there. It's awesome.
Yeah. Or after they combine it, it's great. You can just smell it. I mean, we can smell it, and I know they can smell it, but
oh yeah,
it's they just gravitate towards it. Yeah.
What was I gonna? So where do you sell your grain to? Your corn and soybeans?
We sell to like Purdue, who will sell to certain, other places. They're like the middleman on it. We work with Howlett Farms.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I asked. Was I was wondering if you do or not, because Mike and I are best friends.
Really?
He was one of the best men in my wedding, or my groomsmen in my wedding. So yeah, I hunt quite a bit with him on his farm, and so
I didn't know he hunted.
Yeah, he hunts when he can. He's a pretty damn busy guy, so he only gets a couple days a year, but
yeah. That's neat. Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, Mike's great. He's been great for the area. And he just bought a green setup right, 10 minutes from me.
In Geneva, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I cover that area. I sell school buses is what I do for a living. So I cover the whole Finger Lakes region. So I've been trying to figure out exactly where that place is in Geneva, because I drive through there quite a bit going to, down to get in between the lakes. I kind of seem to get off the throughway and down through that way. But yeah, you're in a pretty beautiful area out there.
Yeah, swing by anytime. Come by.
Yeah. After hunting season, I didn't know all your background. I'd love to get together and do a podcast with you after hunting season gets by. Us do a longer form discussion, kind of hear some stories and different stuff. It'd be fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. What's your goal with this? Like, what do you like? What's the end game here with what you're doing?
It's a great question. Waste a bunch of my money and my time is what I'm doing. No,
you do it. Love it.
So really the big thing, I mean, I'm a huge listener of podcasts. I love podcasts. I drive a lot, so obviously I have time. I like learning and listening to people tell stories, whether it be hunting related or politics, business, stuff like that. So my friends were kind of bugging me to start a podcast because I like them so much and I talk for a living. So I was like, yeah, what the hell? I'll try it out. So I started this last fall before we went out west. Every couple of years we go out to Colorado for elk and or mule deer. And so we started it up last fall and been going ever since, doing an episode a week. And during season, we do 2 or 3 episodes, with stuff like this where we get people on local to tell their stories, and really just trying to kind of create a community here in New York State with our podcast, and help promote people that are doing things like you doing your stuff with the filming. And I've actually messaged with the guys over there to see if they want to get on and do a podcast and kind of spread the word about what they're up to. So really,
When
more
you
or
say
less,
over there, when you say over there, who are you talking about?
the Just Hunt Club.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So because I had seen them, I hadn't heard of their platform. I had seen them on the Hunting Public. They had kind of highlighted them. It was on their PA trip here. They
went down there together. Yep.
So I looked them up and saw that they were posting some stuff from New York. So I had reached out to them to see. I'm not sure who I was talking to, but just messaging back and forth about getting them on here to talk about some stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, I don't know where this will take me. I'm kind of in it for the ride to see where it goes. And I'm not trying to, I have a great job. I'm not trying to replace my income, but if I can grow the podcast and help people, education's a big thing to me. We got a ton of new hunters out there, and it's really fun to have a local based platform to be able to, on a weekly basis, share and have people on that are successful to share their stories and how they're doing it. So yeah, that's kind of my why behind it.
Okay. Joe Mainville?
Know the name. I've never met him, but he's out of the Syracuse area, right?
I don't know where he lives, but it's Hunting the Empire.
Yep.
He had a podcast. I don't know. I think he's kind of chilled on it right now, but he's doing, similar to my guy you might want to talk to a little bit.
Yeah. He has something to do with Tethered, or he was going to help them with that deal there that got canceled over the summer.
Right. Yeah. I was going to go to that with him too. And that, obviously that went to heck, but he's a great guy. You might want to talk to him.
Yeah, I should reach out to him. It's amazing. Like you would think, like, how the hell am I going to find somebody to talk to every week? It's like there's just no shortage of, and like this thing with the Breedinum radio, it's like overwhelming. Like we've been from week 1 of archery, we've been doing interviews, and it's just like there's no shortage. There's so many people we could talk to. So it's a lot of fun. Like we're meeting a lot of guys, we're making connections. There's a couple young guys up from the northern Adirondacks that we've touched base with and had them on a couple times. They shot a 150-inch buck up in the mountains 2 weeks ago and with a rifle, and like I just love it. Like you're just meeting these guys that I don't know, you never cross paths. I never would have met you if I wasn't doing something like this. So it's just cool connecting the dots and meeting people. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's neat. There's a lot of hunters in the Northeast. You got a big market, and that's attractive for lots of reasons. But the ceiling is way higher than we're at right now. You know what I mean? With the potential. But I think the new hunters coming in is going to help. Not that I want to wish the old guys out, but some of that old school mentality, as that goes away, some of the new ideas and philosophies come in. I've seen it here just in my career, not a career, but in my hunting lifetime, I've seen what can happen. It's taken a lot of work, but it can be a lot better than it's been in the last, however many years, decades.
Yeah. And there's so much good information out there. And that's, I guess when it really gets back to it, it's having relevant, pertinent information to this area that I want to get out there for everyone, because there's so much good content from other states and some of the bigger whitetail states, but there's just not a ton coming out of New York. So, like what you guys are doing, we're not a video group. We don't have the skills and at this point don't have the desire to put a camera in our hands, but the audio version just seems to really ring true with us. So, it's kind of fun. Like everybody finds kind of their niche and what we can do to help the culture and the group and the community. And just keep her growing. So
Yeah, and another cool thing about the Northeast is the diversity of the ground. I mean, you go to the Midwest, Ohio, Iowa, Illinois. I mean, it's relatively the same, relatively the same. But just New York alone, you've got mountain hill country, and you've got, I mean, where I'm at in Stanley is pretty flat.
yeah,
It would be more similar to the Midwest, but that diversity is pretty neat.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah, and from where you are, like, so our family hunting camps in Naples, and
Yep.
I mean, I hunt there a lot, and I also hunt out here in Wyoming County on my in-laws' farm, and it's flat here. We're up on top of ridges, so I never knew about wind. I never knew about any of that stuff because hunting in the hills and the Finger Lakes, it's like it was never even a discussion in our hunting camp. So there's just so much to learn, and that is one of the beauties of New York State and the Northeast is that you can hunt farmland in the morning and you can hunt mountains in the afternoon. I mean, and it'll just make you a better hunter.
It's very similar to you. We have about 200 acres in Prattsburg.
Oh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, it's the same type thing. I can go there and it's hill country, and you got thermals and swirling winds. Honestly, it drives me crazy. And then you're down here, and it's way more consistent wind. And in the last 2 or 3 years, the bucks have been a lot better here in Stanley than down there. And don't ask me why. We've done more work in Prattsburg than ever with food and everything, and the hunting's been worse. So go figure. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's
land of the giants down there, though. There's some giant big
they're
bucks in
there.
Steuben County.
Yeah, they're there. No doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, you can guess. It used to be the highest deer take or buck take in the state was Steuben County.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is.
I don't know. It seems like everywhere there's growing. I don't know. Did you see that the 200-inch buck the guy shot up in Niagara County last weekend?
Maybe. Did you have it on your site?
I don't know if I shared. I don't think I shared that one. Hunting Western New York shared it. It's been all over the New York Hunt Club and stuff. I shared another one. A guy shot a 170-inch buck just over the hill, from not literally just over the hill, but 10 miles away from where I am. And yeah. I mean, it's just freaking just giant bucks. Like,
Any idea how old those are?
I'm guessing. I have no idea, but I'm guessing that buck that guy shot up in Niagara County, there's a lot of huge deer that get shot up along the lake. There's all those orchards, and it's just great habitat when you get down off of, like, closer. I don't know what they call that, like the Niagara Plateau or whatever. Once you get down onto the actual, like, flat ground right there at lake level, there's some incredible habitat, and they shoot some giant bucks up there. But I think a lot of that stuff, like, now that we've got social media, it's just getting out there. The guy that shot it is probably somebody who's like our father's age. And
I saw him. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I always get into the age as I get older. maybe it's me as I get older. I worry about the age of the deer, and I just, like, you get a 200-incher, and it's like, all right, was that a 4-year-old with tremendous genetics, or was that a 7 or 8-year-old that just got old? Obviously still had tremendous genetics,
right?
But I'm just curious. I mean, we got a buck this year. We've been hunting for a long time. The oldest buck I've ever known to hunt is 7.5 years old this year here. That's the oldest one I've ever knowingly hunted.
Yeah.
So, and that was number one on the list. And as far as I know, he's still there. But
cool.
You need a whole podcast to hear about this one.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah. Well, why don't you kill them in gun season and regular season? I don't know if you chase them with the bow or if you chase them with the gun, but
a little both. Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear that story. We'll catch up again and hopefully you've got a story about him with an ending and figure.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I'd be glad to. I like, obviously, these type of things that you guys are trying to promote the possibilities in the Northeast. I think it's great. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, thank you for jumping on, Eric. Go Bills, and I'll make sure to share your video when it comes out with those guys.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, take it easy, care, buddy. Congratulations.
All right, see you, man. Bye.
It's not so bad now.
What's happening, Ben Williams? Welcome to Breedinum Radio.
Oh, not a whole lot. Just enjoying it. Actually, enjoyed some tenderloins tonight, so can't
Good.
complain about that.
How do you cook them?
A little bit of salt and pepper. That's it.
Simple. On the grill or in the
Yep.
frying pan? How do you do it?
Fry pan usually or grill. Not really picky on that, but tonight it was on the fry pan.
Nice. Yeah, my dad always used to make them when the night we would cut up the deer, and I don't know how he did it because I can never make it the same way he did. But it was simple. It was salt and pepper and butter, and I feel like I remember onions being involved, but I don't know. It was always just fantastic.
Yep.
So
that's classic for sure.
I want to know what happened. So you, if anyone did not hear Ben's been on the podcast before. He is the head man in charge at Old Tin Cup. So he does a lot on social media and on YouTube with food plot management, property management. Pretty involved with the Quality Deer Management Association in the northern. What do they call your Northern Finger Lakes? Is that what you call your chapter?
Just rebranded. Actually, the announcement came out yesterday. QDMA and NDA officially came out with the new name, so it's the National Deer Association, keeping still the same 8-point buck and doe silhouette, and then going with the NDA, but the National Deer Association. So they came together. So renaming and rebranding the chapter or the branch or whatnot. So, but yeah.
So you're back because you released an arrow this weekend and you got a buck in the ground. So I want to hear the story. I want to kind of hear the back end. And so I guess first introduce maybe yourself. Obviously I just gave you a little introduction, but maybe where you're from, kind of the general area you hunt for everybody listening.
Yeah. So I hunt in 8F. Most of my properties I hunt are in 8F. I work all over the state, like you said, with the consulting and also working as a real estate agent with Future Forest Properties. So that keeps me very, very busy, very, deeply tied to land and stuff like that, kind of in all pieces of it. But actually, unfortunately, you know me, I like to tell the full story with stuff, but unfortunately on the 24th, I didn't recover one of my top hit list bucks that I hit. Unfortunately. So I'm waiting for him to show back up on camera. That's on my main piece of property that I hunt, my family property, my family farm. And then unfortunately wasn't able to recover him, waiting to see if he turns back up on camera. But like we talked about on the show with Outlaw, I mean, it's amazing how tough these animals are. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him again, or hopefully maybe me or one of the neighbors could even get a crack at him.
Yeah.
But
what do you
but that's
think,
not the buck that I was fortunate enough to harvest.
What do you think happened on him?
Was 27-yard shot. Had already ranged the spot in the field, the food plot where he came in. He was 100% on pattern, the most I've ever seen a mature buck in New York on pattern. He was on that plot 6 out of the last 10 days when I went to go hunt him on the 11th day. He was daylight on that food plot every evening, coming out the same trail, everything. So I noticed a pattern that it had to be below about 50 degrees. And I slipped in there, had the right wind, good conditions. He came right in early in the night, probably about 2 hours before dark, actually. Came in on the downwind side of me, didn't get into my wind, but the does that were already kind of past me did. They spooked. And then in true mature buck fashion, he stood there like a statue for 20 minutes. And after about 20 minutes, he realized something wasn't right, didn't know what was going on. He literally turned 180 degrees in his footprints and walked right back in the same trail he came out of. And then 5 minutes before sunset, he did end up coming out on the trail that he'd come out on in previous nights. Came in and 27 yards, I thought I was solid on him. When I shot, he turned toward me, which, I guess happens. and I think he ended up being a broadside a lot, really hard quartering too. And I think I put it right down kind of in the front of his neck and up in the top of his shoulder. Didn't get a pass through, found my arrow. We let him go overnight because we didn't find him within the first 50, 75 yards of the track. Backed out, came in the next day with the dog, went 400 yards, didn't find a single bed. There was no bubbles in the blood, no stink on the arrow. He didn't really act like he was, fatally hit. It was kind of seemed like more of a muscle hit, kind of from my experience. And, went back in that next day, like I said, did a whole grid search with a bunch of buddies after we lost blood at about 400 yards. And it just kind of piddled out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's the story that I got with Baby 10. Unfortunately, I didn't get to put my hands on him. But yeah. But you called about Y-Buck, so I guess
That's
we can
right.
talk about Y-Buck
Yeah,
now.
enough of the negative.
Like I said,
just had to get your human side out there,
Yeah,
so we were all
but
feeling.
that's the thing. Well, no, it happens to everybody. I mean, we talked about it on when I was with the podcast with you last time, and I'm one of them that I don't sugarcoat it. I'm straight up 100% honest. That's what happened. That's how it happened. It's a completely different game with a living, breathing target, but no. So this past Sunday, will that be November 7th, 8th? I forget. I'm losing
Monday?
track of my days.
Was it Monday?
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday was the 8th. Yep.
Sunday. Yep. Yeah. So it was the 8th. So I had sat there the night of the 7th, and I planned on giving our farm just a complete rest, and I was going to hit it hard with this big cold drop that we got going on right now. That was the game plan. So I switched gears, went to my grandmother's farm in plans of taking a doe, to kind of get my confidence back up, and needed a few more does taken over there anyway. Wasn't really even expecting that much. And the 7th, when I was out there Saturday night, I had a ton of activity, like right at sunset. Bunch of bucks chasing, grunting, snort wheezing at each other. Just a great night. And I said, got to get back in here the next morning. I don't know what'll happen. Maybe I'll see some stranger, or who knows. And I went in that next morning, and it was dead calm quiet, and I didn't see a single thing like all morning. And, well, I saw one little doe, but that was it. And then at 9 o'clock, I kind of had a funny feeling, and texted my fiance, and I said, well, I kind of got a feeling about the stand at the top of the hill. And so what I did was I ended up unstrapping myself from the tree, climbing down, still hunting up the hill, and I ended up bumping 3 does out from underneath that stand at the top of the hill. So I said, oh, shoot. Well, I'm up here. I might as well strap in now, and it's about 9:30. I get up in the tree. I get strapped in, and I can see I'm right on the top of a drumlin. I can see down to my west is the alfalfa field, and down to the east, it's kind of between 2 bedding areas. It's just a really good spot. But it's hard to get in there in the morning because you bump a lot of deer that are bedded up on top, kind of like I did when I went up in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really tricky. It's kind of more of an evening stand. But I slipped up in there, like I said, mid-morning at like 9:30. And I was sitting on stand, just sitting there and kind of enjoying it because it was nice, warm kind of days we've been having. And caught a little movement out in front of me, and it's kind of some planted spruce trees up on top of that hill. So it's really close quarters, tight to see. And I saw that it was a deer, and I put the binoculars up, and I saw what happened to be his left side, which is his straight side, his normal side. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good buck. And then he kind of turned his head through the brush, and I saw that big Y side, and I'm like, that's Y buck. I said, I know what deer that is. And so I turned around and got my bow once I figured out what deer it was. That was the number 1 buck we had on that piece of property, my grandma's farm. A lot more hunters per acre over that way, a lot more buck tags. He was the best buck in that area for sure. And then as he's coming down the ridge, trying to figure out what he's going to do, if he's going to cross over, and be on my strong side like I would like him to do. There's a big trail that crosses like a little saddle right there in the hill at 20 yards. And he went past that, and he's coming right toward me, and he's walking pretty quick. I'm like, well, he's about 15 yards now. I haven't stood up, and he's going to come in on my weak side off to my right. And luckily, there's a huge spruce tree that's right next to the white pine that stands in. And so in one full motion, I got clipped up as he was coming in. I stood up, drew, and ballerina tippy-toed on the platform with him in like less than 15 yards as he's coming behind this spruce tree on a walk. So as soon as his head disappeared, I started turning. I get turned all the way around where I could see where he's going to be on the other side of that spruce tree. And he comes out on the other side of that spruce tree, and he's like, got to be under 10 yards. I never even ranged it.
Jesus.
But he was right there on top of me. But I drew as I spun right in the stand because I said I'm going to get a shot at him when he comes around, or I'm not going to be able to get a shot at him. And he stood there right kind of on the side of that spruce for probably only 2 or 3 seconds. It wasn't long at all. Didn't even really feel like a long time. He might even still been moving for all I know. He bent down, licked the ground a little bit with me at full draw, and I had a grapevine right over his vitals. And I'm like, he bent down and he started licking the ground. He started lip curling, and I'm assuming he was testing some doe urine that was up there. There's a gland in the top of a deer's mouth called the vomeronasal nasal gland. And I think he was pressing that doe urine up to that to see if she was hot or not. They can literally tell if that doe's ovulating by putting that urine up against the top of their mouth.
So he licked the ground where a doe had walked. Is that what you're saying?
I assume so. That's the kind of behavior he was kind of. Then he's right here underneath me, and I'm at full draw, and that's kind of that lip curl, that Fleming or whatever that people refer to. A lot of times they're putting that urine up against the roof of their mouth, seeing if that doe is hot or not.
Yeah.
So, and as soon as he picked that head up and started lip curling, he kind of turned his head down the hill, and I leaned back into the tree and kind of leaned in my harness, like pushed my arm against it because it's like right here.
Yeah.
And I leaned right out into the tree with it, and I put it right on him, got around that grapevine, and I sent it, and he was right down the hill. I blew right through him, had a complete pass through. Arrow ended up going down the bottom of the hill. I never found it.
Oh, geez.
But it blew right through him, both sides. He went down the hill, crashing and snow plowing, and he got about halfway out into the alfalfa field at the bottom of the hill, and the wheels fell off, and ended up laying white belly right up toward me about 100 yards from where I hit him.
It's awesome, man.
So
you had a feeling. You had a feeling.
It sometimes happens like that, and you can't explain why. You can't really understand it sometimes, but it just seemed to be that was not the best spot. I really wasn't getting a really good thermal lift either, was the other thing that didn't want to keep me in that stand at the bottom of the hill. Usually you can get a pretty good thermal lift out of there and get your wind out and over a pond that's right there by that spot too, which is the other reason I sat at the bottom of the hill by the pond, is because it was going to be so hot. But no, he was cruising right along that ridge top kind of between those bedding areas, I'm sure, where he could use his eyes and cut a lot of those cross trails, just like he was kind of doing, checking where the does were hanging out.
Mm-hmm. When you say
he's a great buck.
When you say a thermal lift, kind of explain that, because I kind of think I know what you mean, but I'm curious, like what you were looking for and what wasn't happening.
Yeah, so what was kind of weird about Sunday is it didn't warm up all of a sudden, kind of like you get in the morning. You can kind of see like the hour by hour when you're tracking it with the temperature. And what wasn't happening that morning is it wasn't warming up very rapidly. When you get that kind of a ramp up in the morning temperature, what you get, especially being on the east side of the hill like I was, with that sun warming up that air at the bottom of the hill, it pulls it up. And a lot of times, if it's a kind of a calm morning like it was, it'll lift your milkweed or whatever you're using straight up like an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally straight up, and the wind won't catch it, nothing. And it's more exaggerated when there's no wind to make it change or shift. And like I said, it was just so calm that morning. I was dropping my milkweed, and it was just sinking. It was just sinking like a rock, like it would be like for an evening hunt when everything's cooling down.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't warming up quick enough to get my milkweed up to take my scent out and away from where I wanted it to be. It was literally just kind of pool saturating right where I was at the bottom of the hill. And then once I got up at the top of the hill later in the day, I was getting a little bit more of that thermal pickup. I noticed when I dropped milkweed when I got on the stand. Plus, at that point, with just a little bit of rise, that takes it, being on the top of the drumlin, that takes it way, way out toward the next drumlin. You know, basically blowing the scent way over the treetops instead of down into any of the deer. So essentially that spot, as long as you're on it from like, I really like it for a early get in at like maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon during the rut. And then I'll sit that till like a half hour before dark, because then I can get off of it too once all the deer have piled through and gone out to the food and get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't even sit that stand till dark a lot of times, because after the sun starts going down, you'll watch your milkweed and your scent reflecting the milkweed will just sink right to the bottom of the hill. It'll drop like a rock. You'll literally watch it just like float right down the hill. So, but yeah, no, it worked out really good. I mean, there's obviously always a little bit of luck involved, but that was the first time in that stand, literally 15 minutes on the stand. And that's only the second time I'd hunted that property all year too. Yeah. So it's talking about, leaving a property, letting it cook, or a specific part of the property that you might be hunting. Just letting them sit and just let those deer be unpressured. Let the neighbors put a little pressure on them. And that's where it's real important to keep shifting, keep moving around. I think I've only sat in maybe one of my stands more than one time this year. Just super trying to keep the pressure spread out and just, trying to keep as low impact as possible.
Yep. Well, I would say it's working. You got a beautiful buck on the ground. I'm happy for you. And I
appreciate it.
We're a little over a week away from putting another tag in our pockets. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
You got any?
You guys have all been tagging good ones.
Yeah, it's been an awesome season so far. I mean, it was especially the last 10, 12 days have been awesome. The end of October was great. And just yesterday, one of my good friends from college, Rob Herman, he lives in Colorado, but he's from the Trumansburg area. And he shot a nice buck down there yesterday. He's had some crazy rutting activity over there. The rut seems, despite the hot weather, the rut, from what I'm seeing and the people I know that have been out, if you're in the right spot, it's been very, very good. But if you're not in the right spot with a hot doe, I don't think there's a whole lot of widespread cruising going on during daylight hours. I mean, if you're right on a hot doe, I think you're getting some pretty decent action, regardless of what the temperature is. But guys are having good luck, and one of our good close hunting buddies, John, he shot a nice buck tonight too. So it's been an awesome season, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, I shot my buck at 9:45. I mean, there's still going to be, you never know when they're going to break away from that doe either and get on their feet. And it could be that, she's finally had enough, or, he thinks he's, bred her to satisfaction or whatnot after that 24, 36-hour period where she's in estrus. And it could have been that he just had broke off a doe and he was literally coming down the hill looking for the next one. You do really never know this time of the year when it's going to happen.
No.
So, and it's great. And it's kind of a bummer. Last year I tagged out on the 4th. This year ended up being on the 8th. But I really do enjoy this, like, 9th through, like, the 14th, because it's that random movement. You never know, you always see cruisers, early November, October. That's where a lot of bucks die. Starting around kind of Halloween time frame. But after that random cruiser, especially this time of the year, I like it because you get a lot of those stranger bucks.
Mm-hmm.
That buck that you had no pictures of, or you had one picture of way back in velvet in the summer, and that was it. He finally comes back into town looking for a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And that's, unfortunately I've had to miss it the last couple of years, but I told my dad he better get out there because he saw a good one crossing the road by the house the other day, and I told him to sit in the stand when we had our it was like number 1, number 2 buck, whatever way you want to slice it. He ended up coming out about 30 yards from his stand the other day, and I told him to go sit it, and he didn't listen. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Hey, you can lead him to water, but
probably would have been his biggest buck he's ever taken.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, we're such optimistic or opportunistic hunters. I mean, we've got some giant bucks on camera, and at the end of the day, especially this has been a year like none other, and just between having kids and having multiple kids now, there just isn't the time to get out, and then not having PTO time with the whole COVID thing, having burned all that back during March, April, and May. It's like there was not a doubt in my mind when that buck came out that I shot. Didn't even cross my mind that that's not something I have been after or seen pictures of. It was like, nope, that's a buck that I'd be happier than hell to put my tag on, and I'm letting an arrow go, and it's just, and my dad did the same thing. My dad's had a hell of a year with his scenario, working in the school districts and trying to battle through all this. And the first buck he had come by him, didn't even think twice about it, and he shot him. So it's one of those things, I think I actually did a podcast today with Steve Shirk. He's Big Woods buck guy out of PA. And, at the end of the day, it's like, whatever, it's like, yeah, it's like at the end of the day, it's whatever makes you happy. It's like, do I want to shoot Frankenbeans or, some of these huge bucks we've got on camera? Hell yeah, I do. But it's like, I just don't have the time right now. And I really enjoy getting out there and pulling my bow back and getting that heart racing and shooting a buck. I love it. So it's like, you just don't know how many opportunities you're going to get. I didn't have a single opportunity last year to buck with my bow, and I hunted a lot. So it's really rewarding, and it's really fun to stick one and just get that feeling, get that rush, and then take the pressure off. It's a love-hate. You just touched on how it kind of sucks, running into this part of the month of November without having a buck tag in your pocket, but it's a pretty cool feeling to be able to get out of work and not be stressed out whether you're going to get a half hour sit in or how the hell you're going to do it this weekend.
Yeah no, and I always run into it too, especially that most of my bucks, other than like 1 or 2 of them, a couple of those stranger bucks or whatever, I've had pretty good trail cams or history with most of the deer that I've ended up being able to harvest, which is nice. But then at the same time, it's kind of a plus and a minus. I don't get to, see him on the card or try to figure out where his next move was. I was able to, beat him in that game of chess. And that's always a very fulfilling, fist pump and, just kind of a surreal moment. But, at the same time, it's kind of lets the wind out a little bit too when you sit back and reflect on it that, I'm not going to get his picture on a camera again, or I'm not going to, it's kind of a bummer. But then the next buck shows up and it's a whole new chapter and it's a whole new chess game. So, and when you open up places in the prices in the herd, bucks tend to fill it.
Yep. That's exactly right. All right. Well, I'm trying to keep these relatively short, so we're running on about a half an hour. So I know you and I could sit here and I could crack a cold one and we could talk all night, but we'll hopefully catch up again here during gun season. I wish you the best of luck and congratulations on your great buck, and we'll stay in touch for sure.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good luck this year.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. See you, buddy.
Yeah.